Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Painted Live. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday evening. Tonight we're going to be painting just one model. Actually, I don't know. I might paint Bud and Lou, but I don't really care to. This is Harley Quinn from the from the Batman Gotham City Chronicles board game. That's what happens when you do a live show, man. You get stuff like that. So I'm going to be painting her. You can see I got most of the sort of initial skin and her face done. That said, though, I may go paler. I'm not sure. I mean, right now, I think on your screen and on my screen, she actually looks kind of what's the word I'm looking for? She doesn't look quite pale enough, maybe. Oh, hey, thanks a lot, Dave. What's up, man? Welcome to the feed. Yeah, I had a great birthday weekend, man. Um, Anyways, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Um, so we're going to do some painting on her, and then we'll see. We can talk a little bit about the Batman Gotham City Chronicles board game. I am going to give my impressions of the game, and the one thing that I would say about my perspective that's probably different than your average board game reviewer's perspective is that I'm a player of the Night Models Batman miniatures game. So my review slash impression of the game is probably includes the perspective of somebody that's more of a miniature gamer rather than a board gamer. So we'll get into that in a minute. But anyways, I'm going to mix up a couple colors here before we really get into the thick of it. And we're just going to paint for a little bit tonight. I hope to actually, I purposely only did one miniature right now because I have a feeling I'm going to be doing more rambling than I am painting. So if you're here for like specific painting, maybe another feed might be a little bit more painting inclined than this one. But anyways, mixing up a little. I'm going to mix up some of the lighter colors. So on this model, the main theme here is red and black. And I'm going to do kind of my own slight variation on that. Right? I'm basically just going to pick from the two designs, the standard comic Harley Quinn design and the, I guess, the Suicide Squad version of Harley Quinn. I'm going to tackle, kind of pick and choose which versions of these that I like. Cool. I think I'm not sure. I think Sam Lentz. You're talking about like Dice Tower Sam Lentz, I believe, right? Sam Lentz. I think that's the person that you're referring to. That's cool, man. So does that mean you went to Board Game Geek Con or you went to another con that had Sam Lentz in it? Oh, he's an awesome mini painter. Okay, cool. Well, that's great, man. Yeah, it's cool to be able to hang out with like the mini painters that you look up to. Okay, so we'll do that for now, and I'm gonna do some blonde hair right now. So sounds like my son Octavius is home. That's cool. You can hear a lot of rumbling upstairs. Those are my two boys. Oh yeah, the court. Okay, cool. My two boys are running around upstairs playing, and I figured I thought I could sneak away, get a little painting done, and maybe a short chat with you guys about this game because I want to talk about this game because it's I had a very mixed impression of it. I backed the board game Kickstarter it was almost like a financial decision to back the board game Kickstarter. My position at the time was like, well, at the time I backed this, we were playing Batman pretty heavily. the Night Models Batman game, and they were about to go into their version 2 of their rules, and we had a fairly strong group of players that would meet every week, sometimes multiple times a week, and play Batman. And we at the time we really loved the Batman board miniature game, and so this came along, and we're thinking, okay, well maybe my thought was, okay, worst case scenario, I don't like the game. Yeah, yeah. Sounds like my wife is asking me to do something real quick. Um, okay, let me take care of that. I'm gonna go AFK for a couple of minutes, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm streaming right now.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's okay.
If you have a screwdriver, I can do it.
No, I'll do it. Screwdriver. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll hand these to you in a minute. Okay. Okay. So I gotta do a quick thing, guys. Uh, so hey, quick break here. I gotta change some batteries. So let me find my little screwdriver. These are this segment brought to you by what's the name of this toy? I think it was called like something tracks. I forget, like cool tracks or whatever. It's a pretty cool toy that my 5-year-old likes to play with. So we'll just change some batteries. No big whoop, right? Anyway, so yeah, at the time it was like worst case scenario, I know that I could buy that Kickstarter game and then essentially just if I didn't like it, leave it in the package, or if I wasn't interested in playing it or painting it, just leave it in the package, turn around, flip it, make maybe $100 extra off the top, right? It was like a $300 pledge. So I thought, okay, yeah, I could do that. That would be worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I really like the game. The games can be interchangeable with the Night Models because the scale is right, and we could use it as a like a gateway game, right? My thinking was, well, maybe it's a gateway game. In other words, we get somebody that's into board games or has some interest in playing Batman that isn't well versed in miniature gaming, and we get them to play this board game, and then they can then they would enjoy that, and then we can turn them on to the Night Model game, right? So that would be best case scenario. Is it a gateway into the proper miniatures game, right? And I think that when the game came in, and between now and then, based on those sort of best case and worst case scenarios, I would say we landed probably somewhere in the middle. Okay, we landed in between those two scenarios. In other words, I don't hate the game. I'm not going to turn around and just sell the game. That's definitely not the case. But conversely, I like the game. I don't think it's really a gateway to the Night Model game, and but at the same time, I also don't think that that's necessarily the climate that we're in. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, just good job. Like, look at just managed to keep all the lucency on the paints, like pure glaze job. All right, make sure these cars are gonna run. So I landed in between those two areas. The bottom line is, am I going to keep the game? Yes. Am I going to play the game? Absolutely. Do I think it's the best thing since sliced bread? No. But I will say this. I do think... Okay, that one's running. Okay, here we go. All right. One sec, guys. Let me give these back to my wife, and let's get back to my ramble. All right, here you go, guys. Okay. What, buddy? Okay. He's telling his friend a secret. Okay. So, like I said, I landed somewhere in between, um, using it as wanting to use the game as a gateway into the Night Models game, and just hating the game, turning around and selling it. Um, One of the major factors there is us sort of falling out of favor with the Night Models game. And I'll explain that in a minute. I mean, essentially, the Night Models game, um, in their second edition, kind of fractured their own game. Okay. In other words, they kind of Night Models is kind of decentralized their knowledge base with the game, and the game was already kind of it's not the most easiest game to get into, right? And I'm talking about the Night Models game. I'm not talking about Gotham City Chronicles. Um, but from my perspective, one has bearing on the other. The short of it is that the Night Models game, while the quality of a lot of the sculpts improved with them going to resin, it made it easier to build the models, which was my biggest gripe with the metal kits that Night put out at in the version 1 was cool. Um, the However, when they went to the version 2 rules, they didn't come out with a hardbound rule book, and it was pretty apparent that they would need to be able to make a lot of changes, and they still haven't quite, in my opinion, they still haven't quite given the game um, enough convenience to really get in and play and enjoy as a miniature game. I think the strength of the Night Models game is the quality of the sculpts and your desire to collect those sculpts. I really think that's kind of where Night Models is. Um, and so, long story short, we fell out of my local crew and I kind of fell out of the Night Models game. And so we're not playing Batman, really. I haven't played Batman, the Night Models game, for like like a full calendar year at this point. Uh, on the other side of it, this game comes in where, I'm heavily playing Guild Ball and not wanting to leave Guild Ball. Um, and then this game comes in, and I was already kind of like ready to turn around and just sell it without even trying it. Like I was like, well, I don't need a board game. It kind of fallen out of not just Night Models Batman game, but I kind of fell out of the whole idea of playing. Um, oh gosh, I kind of fell out of love with the idea of playing playing board games, like big, like trashy, like Ameritrash style board games. And that one of the games that kind of tipped the scales in that regard is a game called Rising Sun by Cool Mini or Not, which is actually a very good game. I would never accuse Rising Sun of being a bad game. The problem is not it, it's not the game, it's just my own personal habits as a miniature gamer. I'm going to play miniature game systems, you know, like 10 to 1 over miniature board games. In other words, I'm going to play like 10 games of Guild Ball for every board game I would consider playing. So it just didn't really fit my lifestyle at that point. And I was switching all my board game preferences to the person I played board games with the most, which is my 5-year-old son. So Batman Gotham City Chronicles, when I watched a lot of the most popular YouTube kind of tutorials on how to play and demos of the game, it just came off as way too complicated. Like way, way, way too complicated. Like not convenient at all. Not good for new and prospective miniature gamers and miniature board gamers. Um, it just it didn't look like it didn't seem accessible. Okay. So that's why I almost sold it. I was like, man, this sounds more complicated than the Night Models game. And the Night Models game is still, in my opinion, unnecessarily complicated. You don't need all these additional rules just to play a Batman game. There are modern day miniature game rule sets that allow you a deep tactical experience without having to without having to look up 90 different keywords and without having to have 12 separate rules for moving across the board. Miniature gaming does not need to be like that. If you're going to have complexity in miniature gaming, the complexity should come from individual pieces. The core game itself should be very simple, very easy to comprehend. And with game design of this game and I would say the Night Models game, they're alike in that they both have unnecessary levels of complexity. They could really use a modern day board game designer to come through and say, "Hey, guess what? You don't need 90 keywords. Let's shorten that down to about 35. You don't need 12 separate rules for movement. Let's separate that down to about 3 separate rules for movement." A modern day board game designer with any skill can do that. Um, oh, you may want to play. So it both of these games, and they're both European design. Both of these games could use that. Is one less complex than the other? Yes, and the board game, the Batman board game, is less complex than the Night Models game, but it's complex. It's complex nonetheless. It's still unnecessarily complex. But the one good thing I will say about the complexity of the Monolith board game is that the complexity is mostly built into into uh, into symbols rather than keywords, and that's kind of an important distinction, right? It's a little more interesting. I mean, it's a little more. The complexity is kind of baked into the symbols, and symbols can be initially difficult to manage, but once you get that, and once you have a decent index built, it's actually not too bad. And then you have an easier core mechanic on the Monolith board game that makes it more attractive to play. Okay. Oops. I just overturned my red again. So we based. Let's do. So that's kind of where I'm at um, with the difference between the Monolith board game and the Night Models miniature game. I do think, at least on its face, that the Monolith game is more accessible, but it's not that much more accessible, right? It's gonna win in that you don't have to set up 12 buildings and little cars and jersey barriers and all that kind of stuff that you do in the Night Models game. You're not going to spend hours building your crew, spending their funding, hiring all the thugs and, the, the, the boss and then the sidekick. You're not going to have to do that kind of stuff playing the Monolith board game, but it's still a pretty hefty setup. Just having to set up the board and all the tokens that you've got to put down and all of that kind of stuff is still takes 30 minutes to set up the Monolith game, as opposed to the Night Models game, which can take probably around 30 to 45 minutes. So it's easier, but it's not that much easier. And I don't know if we're I don't know if it sounds like maybe I'm overcritical of the two games. Maybe it should sound that way since, I'm trying to give you guys my honest rendition and just be upfront about some of the stuff that I don't like about either of these two games as I compare and contrast them. Um, but I am sticking by the idea that yes, I do enjoy the Monolith board game. And at the end of the day, I can say that I enjoy the Night Models game. But I don't think I'm playing the Night Models game. Uh, you know, I won't be playing the Night Models game nearly that often. Since my wife comment, yes, I play the most with my 5-year-old son. Pretty sure the neighbor kid is totally impressed. Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, cool. Uh, you know, these games can be pretty complex, but yeah. But I mean, you love Batman, right? You're still gonna play. It's the bottom line, in my opinion. If you love Batman, you'll play Batman. Should you play the board game or the Night Models game? Is the next question. So once you get past this idea that, okay, you can live with complexity, you can live with a longer setup time, you can live with some sort of wonky, bloated rules because you love Batman. Let's face it, you love Batman. I love the Batman setting, it's great. Painting the miniatures is fantastic. Those aspects do are what the board game and the miniatures game both do extremely well. Is they both capture the spirit of Batman, the 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 dark feeling of the Gotham City sort of universe. They do all that stuff extremely well. Both games, so both are great for that. Um, Now it's going to come down to what's more important to you, right? So once you've committed to, I'm going to play one or the other, you might play both. And I'm going to make that argument as well. That, hey, maybe you should consider playing both. Um, Once you've made the argument, though, that you are going to play a Batman game, here is where I would draw the line between the two games. Okay. So the main strength of the Night Models game over Gotham City Chronicles is the fact that the individual miniature quality is much better in the Night Model game, right? There's going to be some sculpts in the Monolith game that you may think is better than the Night Model miniatures game, and I'm not going to disagree with you. A perfect example of that would be the Batgirl. First, I think it's the Batgirl. The Monolith board game Batgirl is better than either of the Night Models Batgirl. I think it's better. I wonder if I should go blue or black. I think blue. No, let's go black because I want to try out a different color here. Um, and I think that so miniature quality on the Night Models game is going to be better. That's just the way it's going to be. And customization is going to be much better. Okay, that's a huge thing. If the ability to build the exact team of heroes or villains is what you really want at the end of the day, then I would say for sure the Night Models game is going to be a better experience for you. You're going to have a better experience painting the exact heroes and villains you want. You're going to have a better experience configuring your heroes and villains to play in your specific game in terms of playing a miniatures game. If, on the other hand, you're like, well, I pretty much love anything Batman, but um, I don't want to get involved in building miniatures. I don't want to have to build terrain. I want that multiplayer experience. right? I want that almost like D&D-esque type or Descent type experience, sitting down with a group of friends and playing with and against them. Then the Monolith game is the clear pick, right? That's what you go for. And that's kind of where I'm at and why the Monolith game, as of today, is a better fit for me and my gaming habits than the Night Models game. If you're just joining us, welcome to Play It Painted Live. Let us know what you're painting or what you should be painting. Right now, we are painting Harley Quinn from the Monolith board game. And I'm giving some of my impressions of that board game. Okay. So again, if you are looking for more of that like Descent Hero Quest, that sort of semi cooperative experience, one player versus many, and you want to play up to a 4-player game, then this is a great game for you. Some people kind of argue the merits of the game without talking about the Batman IP specifically, and I don't think I'm capable of doing that. Honestly, I don't think I'm capable of objectively reviewing the game, uh, a game, especially a Batman game, without talking IP. Like IP is such a big selling point in the case of Batman, and even in the case of like Star Wars games, I don't think, unless you are somehow completely agnostic of these big franchises, I don't think you can objectively say you like or not like it without speaking to the you're painting hate models. Oh, cool. Without really including that as part of your review, right? I mean, it's part of the reason why a lot of us are attracted to this game. Because if you just told me on my face, on its face, like, oh, there's this board game. It's a semi-cooperative board game. You have to paint probably around 60 miniatures before you can actually start enjoying the game. It uses this cube system, and all the hero characters have these have a complex level of symbols, different rules for movement. Everything's sort of governed by symbols on a board. It's a 30 to 35-minute setup time. I would have been out. I would have just checked out and said, "Nah, no thanks. I want to play something that if you're going to do," and my rebuttal would be, if you're going to do a game that's clunky and bloated, it better be a franchise that I really enjoy. And that's just the fact with the Batman game. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do all of that stuff. I'm gonna jump through these hoops, deal with a longer setup time, so that I can enjoy a Batman game, not just so I can enjoy a board game. And that's just being honest. Like I can't just sit here and say, oh yeah, with that kind of setup time, that kind of game time, that kind of mechanics, and then having to navigate a rule book without an index and a bunch of keywords. Oh yeah, sure. I'm totally going to play that on the merits of the game. Nah, no. I don't think that's realistic or honest coming from me at least. Um, and so the game is, once the game gets going though, it's a pretty decent gaming experience, right? It gives you that multiplayer Batman experience. It gives you kind of get to you kind of get to figure out how to beat a scenario. You have players that are working together, and then if you're the villain, you're kind of thinking you're kind of keeping your thinking to yourself, and you're going, well, okay, can't wait to beat the guys with this. Can't wait to surprise them the next turn and activate a very expensive model that they weren't expecting to be able to activate again, uh, and then just completely shut down their plans, right? But you're only going to do that maybe once per game, but it's going to be fairly profound when you do that, when you do actually pull off something like that. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, or if you or if you want to share any of your own experience playing the Batman board game. That would be cool as well. So right now we're just blocking the major colors for Harley Quinn here. Okay. So here we go with it's like the classic red and black that you would typically see on Harley Quinn. So setup, I think, is horrible. The rule book I think, is next to impossible for a typical person to sit down, read, and then be able to play the game. I don't even know if I would blame the way that the rule book is set up, or really more the way the game itself actually plays, because it's not like they're doing a horrible job explaining what's going on, and their diagrams are very good. Their explanations are a little long-winded. I do think, though, at their core, they have too many rules. It's bloated. It's a bloated system. Um, but they're not doing a terrible job explaining it. It's just the nature of this system is terrible to try to learn off the rule book. So now we're painting in the black. It's amazing to see once the black is going down. How much more ready the model looks. Skin still looks a little too dark for my taste. So I think we will actually bring up the skin another tone higher. I will say this. If you like Batman and you like miniatures at all, and you're playing the Night Models game, you should pick up this game. So if you like the Night Models game, I think that's a prerequisite. Like you've already passed the worst of what this game is going to offer. So this is a good fit for you. And if I think that, one in every 3 to 4 Batman players in your meta owns the board game, that's good enough. You don't need every single player to own it. If you're thinking about purchasing it for yourself, come June 4th, the second Kickstarter, then you buy yourself a copy if you are the most passionate person in your group to buy it. Otherwise, if you're one of the more passionate, maybe you're the second or the third or the fourth most passionate person in your group, I think you let the most passionate person buy it, because they'll collect it. They love their Batman. And then you just kind of support them. You may help them paint models, or you may kind of help them pay for the Kickstarter, and you guys just kind of co-own a set. If you can make something like that work. Okay, Let's take a little break from painting red here because I got to brighten up that red. I'll brighten up that red soon at some point. And let's lighten up the skin right now. Right, our Harley Quinn is a little too tan, and I need like a really light skin tone here. So I got to find my fair skin. Okay. It's fair shadow, just close. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll do my best to address them. Ooh, that's a really light flush. Wonder how this. I want like really fair skin. Hope this works. Trying to just get it to mix up. What's that? That's super light. That's fair highlight. That's as light as you'll get. I'll do fair highlight. Should be fun. And I'm going to thin this with airbrush thinner to make sure that this thing lays down super flat. Or super smooth, I should say. Okay. I don't even think I've ever painted with a color this light. This is going to be great for some of these, like, Joker or Harley themed models. This will be good for that kind of stuff. All right. You can see how light this skin is coming down. This Harley has a big old forehead. I want this to lay down nice and flat. Ooh. And it looks a little chalky, which is not terrible because Harley Quinn she does her face makeup anyways. Looks kind of chalky. Okay. So we use this as basically your top tier highlight. I noticed for whatever reason this sculpt is a lot skinnier than or she just seems she seems to be kind of taller and skinnier than the more classic Harley. This highlight is a great color though. It's a great skin color for a model like Harley. But yeah, bottom line, it's a good game. If you're a Batman fan, it's a must, in my opinion. Right? If you're one of those hardcore, I love everything Batman, and you love painting up Batman miniatures or collecting Batman miniatures, it's great. I think there is an argument to have both games. If you really are a miniature gamer and connoisseur of Batman, I think you can have both games, because one of the things we're talking about was like, well, one or maybe two of us in our gaming group own this game, and then everybody else doesn't have to own it. They can just buy whatever night models they want to play in this game, and then when they want to run their own stuff and their own teams and all that kind of stuff, then you actually play the night models game. That's kind of, I think, the sweet spot for all this. Some really light skin here. Now, do I think this is the best board game? No. Do I even think it's the best semi-cooperative board game? No. Um, I think for my money, I like Hero Quest more. I like some of those like Descent or Dungeon crawler games quite a bit more. But if I really, really, really love Batman, and I have a Batman theme, then yeah, I'm saying that I would say, yeah, this is a better buy than Descent um, or any number of those games. I just think objectively, so much of it hinges on your ability, how much you like the franchise in terms of this game. And I think, like I was saying, the game has pretty broad appeal to collectors, which is what the Batman people are really going to be. A lot of Batman fans are diehard collectors of all stuff Batman. Okay, there we go. All right, we'll let that highlight dry for a little bit. Let's do a little black. A little black on that side of the pigtail. There you go. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. Let me know also if you're interested in, if you're watching this on playback and you want me to talk a little bit more in detail about the core mechanics of the Monolith Batman board game. If you want me to cover anything specific about that game, let me know. Mm-hmm. So now I need a kind of a generic wood tone so that I can paint the big hammer here, the big giant mallet. That is too dark. I need like I need kind of like a medium brown tone. This might work. It's not a bad color. And obviously her hair is too yellow right now. So I'm going to have to highlight that up as well. Okay. All right, so brown wood here. One thing, I would love to video some playthrough of the Batman board game, which is kind of a benefit for me because it's a board game. In the past, you guys may have seen on Twitch some of my live feed Batman miniatures game, the Night Models miniature games. We've tried to shoot live stream games of that, and it was next to impossible because just all the buildings and all that kind of stuff gets in the way of the camera. And then you've got a camera running around your board. So it was kind of a pain. It was not that feasible. Whereas I think the board game is slightly more feasible. Might be a little bit harder to follow the action because one thing is the board game relies on a lot of symbols on the board game, which I thought it's a little ridiculous. It's a little ridiculous. Some of the design I really like, some of it I hate, but this whole thing, like, oh, there's all this different classifications of terrain, and the several different movement types and the rules that govern um, movement, like the slippery rule or the parkour rules or that kind of stuff. Which is like, man, I'm just trying to move from one space to another. And so there's like the mechanic is you kind of take the space that you're in and then the destination space, and then you kind of work through all the spaces you have to go through, add up all of your bonuses for movement, and then subtract all the penalties for movement that you're going to have go into that space, and then that's your final cost that the character has to pay in terms of energy cubes. It's a mess is what I'm saying. It's a mess. You don't need Life is too short to be doing their kind of movement system. They should I think it could be more streamlined. I think I really like the letter system that tells you have line of sight between this space and this space. When you have a vantage point, that's fairly cool. It may not be the best, but it's fairly cool, right? Like at least it makes it sort of serviceable. The game it really does have its idiosyncrasies. It really does have things that you just kind of have to accept. you know, for the sake of enjoying a Batman game. It just has stuff that you kind of have to accept. Whoa. Okay. All right. Let's do red band here. So you got another kind of quiet live stream. Woo. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of continue the Harley Quinn theme. Once again, if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know in the comment section. But we're doing okay, kind of getting core colors down on Harley here. Whoa. Let that dry for a minute. I think next up is we want to, I think I want to highlight the hair a little bit more. Oh, and I also need to, we're going to do the little pom-pom colors in on the feet along with the laces. Okay, so let me do that real quick. But you can see, I mean, she's coming together fairly well. So Glacier Blue is the undercoat for white, just because it covers really well. Just a great little precursor to anything you're about to paint white. See, it practically looks white when you paint it down, but it will, the color will dull down soon enough. I'm kind of excited to try the versus mode. So one of the things I want to do is paint through this, and then once this is done, I'll move over and paint. I'll move over, start painting all the cops, and get versus mode ready. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and paint up the. Whoa, where's that? Where's that color I used to highlight blonde hair? It's like a really pale or golden yellow. Which I'm looking for right now. Where is it? Nope. Nope. Okay. Well, it's not in there. Is that it? No. Here it is. All right. Golden yellow. So this is a really nice color I used to for like platinum blonde. It's a good color to highlight blonde hair with. Okay. All right. So, let's just get this kind of wrapped up. Right, and you can see that the hair is coming in a lot lighter. Okay. This little platinum blonde look there. Right, now it looks a lot more washed out, which is, again, that's kind of what we're going for. I'm gonna wash the belt, make the belt kind of a burnished gold color. So now the skin looks a lot more pale. The gold looks gold. The blonde looks blonde. Let's do, let's super highlight up the red. I've been really enjoying this Army Painter Dragonfire Red, which is one of the like D&D colors. It's a really nice high chroma red. Which looks fantastic on Harley Quinn. All right. All right, so we'll kind of, you can see it really kind of, that red starts to jump out immediately once you highlight. So I base coat with Carmine Red and then highlight with the D&D Dragonfire Red. And then Dragonfire Red really just sort of does the rest of the work. Painting red has never been one of my favorite things, but you get yourself a good red recipe and you're in good shape. Because red looks great on miniatures. You pull off red, it looks fantastic. If you blow it, don't look so good. All right. That's a nice bright red star there. And we're just going to highlight in this red. Right. So really just kind of keeping that highlight towards the top part, the most well lit part of the model. You can already tell how bright that comes in. It's really nice. Okay. Okay. There we go. So we're looking, it's looking a lot brighter now. That's good. So that red really kind of forces it all to pop. There we go. So let us know what you guys are painting next. Like I said, next up for me is I'm going to start, I'm going to paint up all the cops and get ready the versus mode for the game. Because I think versus mode is pretty cool. All right. She's looking pretty good. Let's wash the mallet. So I'll wash the mallet. Right. Just going to give a little depth to that. Okay. And then this is another one issue I have with the monolith game. Look at that warped. The warped bases is just Oh, I know a lot of people, other reviewers have freaked out about warped bases, but I will just agree with them. Warped bases are awful. They are awful. They're an evil that needs to be stopped. Whatever Monolith can do on their next Kickstarter to fix the bases so that they're not, it's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 of the bases are warped. Where's that? And for my my dark wash, there it is. It's hiding behind the thing. But yeah, if you guys are painting anything, let me know. I will post some pics on this channel of on my whatever, my community feed or whatever. I'll put some pics of the birds of prey that I finished recently. Just so you guys, I think you guys saw, you may have seen me painting some of that. I don't remember if it was here or Twitch, but you may have seen me painting some of that kind of stuff. I'll highlight this gray, right? Can be pretty subtle. Doesn't have to be a big old highlight. Okay, and then let's paint the black around the base. I'm going to do a little experiment too. So I'm going to take that black. This is the Vallejo Model Color Black, which is one of the flattest blacks out there. And I've been using this to paint on all the edges of all my bases for most games that I play. But this color can be super hard to find, right? It's not always easy to get the Model Color Black, which is like one of the flattest blacks you can buy. And I want to compare it. I want to try out the Reaper Black, right? So I'll just take that. So I'm going to take this black and paint a stripe there, right? And then we'll try Reaper Pure Black, okay? Because if Reaper Pure Black does the same thing, ooh, first I gotta mix it. That bottle's been sitting around for a little bit. All right. If this black works, then I can switch, right? I can switch from I've been trying to switch over to more Reaper paints, mainly because they're easier for me to come by than Model Color. So I'm trying to get out of as much of the Model Color line as possible and switch over to Reaper, which is my preferred choice, but I would be willing to look at other brands if I needed to. Reaper, P3, even Game Color is easier for me to come by. Let's paint that. Actually, I should paint it closer. Paint it like, almost like a drawdown of both paints, right? We'll let that dry for a minute. And do I have a pen on me? I do. Right? So this one here, whoa. This one there is Reaper. This one here is, whoops, not Y, but V, Vallejo, and that one's Reaper, right? We'll let the Reaper finish drying. What I'm mostly interested in is which one is actually blacker, and then which one has the higher sheen. So give that a minute to dry. It looks like the Reaper has a little more blue in it. This looks a little grayer. They're pretty close though, right? You guys tell me that they're pretty close. Like I probably have no problem swapping from one to the other. That's not bad. Yeah, they're both dry. It looks like the Reaper has more sheen, and it's not as even. This Vallejo black is like dead flat, and it's even, right? There's like no at a 60-degree viewing angle. It's got almost no sheen to it, right? Like less than 2 points for sure. Whereas the Reaper has an angular sheen to it, just slightly. Maybe one more point of sheen, but I think for the purposes of just painting this little black stripe across a base, it doesn't matter. Like that should be able to do that no problem. But anyways, yeah. So I'm gonna cut the feed here, but here's Harley Quinn. I think she's cool. I'll finish her, and I've got Bud and Lou here on the table, but I'm gonna move over to cops very soon. I don't think you guys want to watch me paint, like batch paint, like 24 cops. I think it's kind of horrifying. But if you do, and you're watching this on record, leave me a comment and say, yeah, I do want to watch you paint 24 cops at the same. I'd actually only paint 16. It'd be my largest batch number is around 16. Anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Want to thank everyone for watching. Have a great weekend, guys. Or well, actually, weekend's over. But hope you guys had a good Memorial Day weekend, and a special shout out to all of our armed services folks and veterans that we can have a day to honor their memory. So anyways, that's going to do it for this feed. Want to thank everyone for watching. Have a good night, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.